If you're a frequent flyer on NYD Airlines, you already know we love Nicolas Cage on this channel. I've reviewed a number of his recent movies, but I do stick to the more interesting looking ones. Because as most people know, he does make a lot of very generic movies too. But he also makes movies called Pig, where he plays a character who has a pig. And that's all I need to know about a movie to press play, and that's all I knew about this one. I had no idea about the story or even what the premise was, because I didn't really need to investigate it further. And yeah, this story is indeed about a man who lives a very basic life in the middle of the woods. But he has a pig as his only companion, but they seem to get along splendidly, so what more do you really need? But the guy seems to be sort of stuck in time out there, living in isolation. In fact, early on I was wondering what era this movie even takes place in. Is it modern day or like a period piece set in the 1800s or something? Initially there aren't really many clues, as it could easily be set way back in the day. But anyway, one day the tranquility of his peaceful existence is suddenly shattered. And something surprisingly impactful and quite shocking happens. And I gotta admit, at that point we're barely a few minutes into the movie, but to my surprise, I was already invested. Because when those events took place, I realized I actually already cared. And if you can make me genuinely care about something that happens that early in a movie, you're doing a good job. You're on the right track, and I'm impressed by the quality of the filmmaking. But then you gotta keep me on board and keep me invested and interested in what's going on. And this movie did. It never lost me. In fact, it just won me over even more. Because, well, there's a comparison I need to make here, and it might be a surprising one. But this movie actually shares a lot of similarities with John Wick of all things. Except, unlike a movie like Nobody, which essentially copies John Wick beat for beat, this one didn't. It took a very different approach to the whole thing. And despite a number of clear parallels, this one pretty much went in a different direction every chance it got. Because where John Wick chose to go all out with the fun spectacle of it all, and it's one of my favorite action movies of the last decade, it absolutely nailed it. This one chose to go with a more, cerebral and thoughtful approach, I guess you could say. But it managed to do it without losing that sense of fun and without taking itself too seriously. But this is definitely a deceptively clever, layered and nuanced movie. There's more to it than meets the eye, that's for sure. There's a lot of hidden depth here. Because there are just a ton of little details in the story here that give it those extra layers. And what I loved about it was just how restrained and subtle it was about a lot of it. This movie doesn't hit you over the head with anything, it just drops some clues here and there and lets you figure it out. There's very little exposition here, and it respects the audience and trusts that they're no idiots. That they can put two and two together. It's not rocket science, so no need to over-explain things. So yeah, I loved that about this movie. In fact, I liked almost everything about it. I mean, there are some shaky handheld camera stuff I wasn't a big fan of, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I really have no complaints, and this turned out to be a lot better than I even expected. It's a genuinely good film, and yeah, this is exactly why I keep checking out Nick Cage movies. Oh, and before I wrap up, I do need to mention the restaurant scene. That was absolutely brilliant. I mean, one of the best and probably most memorable scenes I've seen all year. Great stuff, just excellent writing, acting and filmmaking all coming together perfectly. And yeah, all things considered, I think this one deserves something like a solid 8. Boop. And I do think you should probably check this one out and give it a chance. Because it's not what I expected and probably not what you thought it was either. Or you could also just skip it. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic.